which we'll discuss. But again, I'm asking now to, maybe Brian is a young parent. Umefanyia mtoto what I was done for. Nilinyang'anywa. You also have that fear of, nimemnyang'anya but atajipanga apate ingine. So, my talk can actually be summarized into only 5 words. Everything is a click away. Everything is a click away. Everything. Everything. If you look at, let's say you want to do biology better. People in the university know watu tumia hawa waindi YouTube, especially the technical courses. Kuna waindi who come through a lot. Yeah? So that's a good thing because you've got information without kusumbua walimu, without sitting in a class, or maybe your class imefanywa, you didn't pay attention or you didn't attend. That's something good. But again, if you want to source for drugs, iko hapo. If you want to watch whatever, iko hapo. So, I think for an issue to be addressed, step number 1, you acknowledge there is an issue. Or you recognize, you first recognize, you acknowledge there's an issue, then you recognize the issue, then acknowledge you are part of the victim going through that issue. Then number 3, you seek help. Because at this age, we think we know it all. We think we can't be helped. Now, what I was saying about we are addicts in denial, 87% of smartphone users, now hii ni survey ilifanywa America, 10,000, it was maybe a small sample size, 10,000 people were asked whether they use their phones in the toilet. In the toilet. Umeenda choo, nayo. 87% said yes. 87% said. I actually have a cousin alikuja kwetu. Aliniuliza where the washroom is. Akaingia, akakumbuka hana simu. She went back for it. Ndo arudi ndani. If that is not addiction, what is? Yeah? And we have to see what was the intent behind us using the internet or getting the internet. There's an organization inaitwa Scientific America. In the 1970s, it did some research on the efficiency of locomotion. Sorry for the kids, on how efficient, I don't know if efficient aeleweki, on how efficient movement is for different species, different animals. How efficient can you go from point A to point B? So they tested a human being, a cat, a dog, a lizard, everything, the same distance, how efficiently. And they published the list. And man did not do very well. Man was about number 400 out of 1,000. Man was actually man didn't do well. But someone in that organization was maybe curious enough to do the same experiment with man, sorry for being gender insensitive, or a human being using a bicycle. Same distance. Sasa wanyama rudieni, but now man will give him a little advantage, let him use a bicycle. Man was twice as efficient as the number 2. Man alikuwa number 1, human being. Na number 2 alikuwa amemshinda more than double. Now what does this show? It shows our ability as human beings, as tool makers. Because it unlocks or it amplifies our inherent abilities. Hii social media or the internet or masimu or laptops hazikuundwa for us to drown in them or to lose ourselves. They were brought to make us better, to do things more efficiently. Because if I was, let's say, looking to prepare for this talk, I will have to go to Kenya National Library Service in Upper Hill. Nienda all the way, I look for all material on the internet, and I'm borrowing. Sinunui, kununua huwezi afford. Then, nianze sa kuperuse through, come on. But you see, with something like Google, it filters with the keywords of your search, inaleta the most relevant results, and you know, it makes work easier. So that was the intent behind us getting access to these things. And you know, there's a reason for those people who don't have phones, and for those who have, still hujafika, because there are reasons why this thing is denied to you people. One is the external influence it has on you. There are people who didn't know. Like for me, movies and music made me know some bad words. I think we all know. I actually hear kids, young kids in schools say, amesema the F word. Huwa anasikia? Amesema the F word, amesema sijui nini. Amesema nini. There's a time I used the F word mbele ya wazazi bila kujua. Yeah, there was a rat hapo, so nika scream, ah! So that word, insert your word hapo. I was beaten. Yeah? So everything, you know, this world has so much. Kuna venye, our parents are filters. Yeah? They are filters from the profane lifestyle that the world chose to lead. They are filters. And you should be too. That's the moral of the story. You should be too. If you have an ordinary phone, you don't, or I don't know, but my phone has something called screen time, screen usage. You can monitor. And for me, inakwanga nimeeka. It's contextual to the app. You can decide, this app, I don't want to spend more than 30 minutes per day. This one, I want to spend 2 hours. This one, I have no limit. So you can also be your own managers. You can, because if you can't self-regulate, if you can't self-police, like without, I have my older sister, our firstborn, is in Japan for work. She's a computer scientist. She got lucky. I don't know if it's lucky, but she got married to an American. And that's where they stay. And she told me something she didn't see in Kenya. Hata kaa hakuna magari, traffic light unasimama. Hakuna gari nakuja hivi, hakuna yenye napita, hakuna yenye na crisscross. You're the only car on the road. It's at 2 a.m. People stop for lights. It's on red. Let me just listen. So if you can't self-police, like, hakuna askari. I even see you guys, or that's what we did, Brian, kukata laini. It's line for food. You don't want to, there's a prefect. Especially in high school, the prefects had power. If there's a prefect, unakaa kwa line. Akigeuka hivi, umeruka. But now for a guy like me, you're too tall, itakuwa you aren't here. Yeah? But because of self-policing, you can actually do very well. There are many things coming up. You know, unfortunately, being a child, you don't know much about how the world functions. You don't know. I remember when I was young, I once asked my dad, where do kids come from? Watoto hutoka wapi? Yeah, they lied to us because of also the size of our brains at the time. Oh, they come from supermarket, tulinunua tu. They come from wherever. So, because you don't understand some biological processes and how us, as a society, we've normalized democracy. I mean, not democracy, mediocrity and democracy, because now every view is favored. May the best man win. So kuna mwenye anakuja na LGBTQ. This rainbow flag people, the gays and the whatever. And I know some. And we've lost ourselves because of external influence. Now, a kid who doesn't know where he or she came from, than ni super, hata if I try this with a fellow man, bado tutakuwa tu super. Right? So I think, if you'll be parents someday, hopefully, better late than early on phones. Because you don't know how to self-police. What the hell? You know, what we do, what makes me believe we are lost? We are lost in this social media fiasco is the fact that we don't live in the moment. Yeah? We don't live in the moment. I went out with a friend of mine to a restaurant called CJ's. Tukaorder food, good food. Tukaletewa food. The first thing, when the waitress aliacha food on both sides of the table, this lady alitoa simu yake. Ametoa simu, anapiga picha pa. Before eating. From what we learned, ilikuwa pray before eating. From what is there in the world today, take photos before eating. So that, why? Because we have used social media as a source of self-validation. Watu waone, I can afford, I have access to these places, to these people. Yeah? And it's been very harsh. Because I wish I shared this. I had a good photo here, but I'll revisit. So, our parents usually say, our parents pia are unfair. Our parents usually say, mtoto anatumia simu sana. Yeah? Mtoto anatumia simu sana. Ati watoto wa siku hizi wameharibika hizi simu zime. And it's not fair. It's not fair for them because, and Mzee will agree, they didn't have this. It's like comparing apples to oranges. If they had the phones and they were still morally upright, then sisi tumeharibika. They didn't have the phones. They didn't grow up under the same circumstances like we have. Yeah? But, this world, changes happen very fast. In 2007, M-Pesa was founded. For those who didn't know, M-Pesa was founded in 2007. Today, I don't remember. I have a wallet kwa mfuko. It's empty. It's empty. Sikumbuki the last time nimeshika pesa. Cash. When I'm paying for offering, CFMS or whatever. When I'm paying for public transport, ni hapo. When you're paying for food, it's just there. So you can't imagine not having a change. Because this world, and if you've studied evolution, Charles Darwin has a theory that it's survival for the fittest. The species that actually, stand the test of time are those who are willing to adapt, or those who are able to adapt faster than anybody. Now, there are paradigm shifts. Do you know ice? Mnajua ice? Ice, si mnajua barafu, the cold one. You know, in the early 1900s, over 100 years ago, ice was being harvested. People would wait for winter. I'm sure even Kenya there was snow. We saw snow, I think. Brian, it was somewhere in Kisii. There was a stadium. The green grass, ilikuwa ice, ilikuwa snow white. Ilikuwa white. So I believe there was snow. The climate was much favorable. But ice used to be harvested those days. Then it got to a point, so there are people who are making money. That was their business. You harvest ice, you sell to people. And then they try as much as possible to consume before it melts. Or I don't know how they preserved. But people used to harvest ice and sell. Then later there was a paradigm shift where ice was mass produced in factories. There are people who now had money, or they were lent by the banks, Shikeni, build a factory so that we have, large scale production. We don't have to wait for winter, 3 months out of 12. Ati hatutakuwa na ice tena mpaka tena is snow. You see? Then it got to a point, that's in the mid 20th century. Then in the 70s, 80s, the refrigerator came. There was a fridge. Now, what does this tell you? If you are a business person in the ice business in this century, if you didn't adapt, you've been wiped out. Because now, where unatuchoteanga hapo unatuuzia, there is somebody who can actually produce in their own facilities. Ndio? Where tumekuacha. Because if you can, if you grow, mtaona kuna kitu inaitwa economies of scale. When you do things at large quantities, it lowers the cost than somebody who does it at smaller. So later, somebody, after a factory, somebody actually made it easier. So the upfront cost is larger. Kununua fridge, sini more than kununua ice, sindio? Hey. But I'll never need the factory guy again. Never. Forever, bora stima iko, I'll always have my ice kwa nyumba. So it means if you're not adaptable in this world, you will be in trouble. Now, the problem is, in this adaptation, some of us are losing it because there are some things, one of the many, and I'm not sure how comfortable I am or how comfortable some of you will be. A specific addiction allied to the internet is pornography. It's pornography. And even the phone itself, before you even go there, all addictions function in a similar way. Yeah, the brain has some little chemistry going on. There's a chemical called dopamine, or dopamine, whichever, that once consumed, it's a feel-good, the layman language is a feel-good chemical. So when it's released upon consumption, maybe instead of listening to me, unatumia simu, instead of whatever, you're using a drug or whatever. So you feel better by doing that. Then with time, your brain gets dependent on these elevated levels of dopamine. Dopamine imekuwa high, imekuwa released. The brain wants to stay there all the time. Yeah? So there are people who, and to the point, by the way, especially the young adults ambassadors can know, there's something called OnlyFans. Do you know OnlyFans? Have you heard of? Nobody will admit they are a subscriber. But there's something widely spread. It's a company named OnlyFans. What they do is these female stars, mostly, they have a subscription model. You pay per month to see the nude content of this person. Utamuona vlameji. But now unalipa, you subscribe. Na si subscription free ka YouTube, you pay some few dollars a year. a month. So there are people who they are addicted to the point of paying. You know, there is free, but you're not at the point of paying. I'm not a financial advisor, but my friend. You know, if you must, I'm not advocating watch, but if you must, usipoteze pesa. Yeah? You know, this is, no one could predict this mental slavery. There's a gentleman I met when I was preparing for this, who is a recovery, who is in recovery from pornography addiction. And he told me, true story, he got to a point where he could see a lady, in his mind, he's kind of undressed her in his mind. Amemwandress akaona hii mtu anakaa hivi bila nguo. Imagine, there are people who've got to that point. So, as I said in the beginning, everything is a click away. These sites can be blocked. You know, and look, you have to approach your parents. Have a good relationship with them. There's nothing they haven't seen. Yeah? There's nothing. Dad, how come okay, maybe you're not comfortable yet to describe your issue. But you can go, Mom, Dad, you know, how do you manage your usage of these devices? Why are you not always on the TV? Mimi ndio unapigianga kelele nitoke kwa TV. How come wewe na si ati juni kwako, but how come wewe you don't have time for this? Your time is used constructively most of the time. You know, and you can get a lot of. I have sisters who they took over the television. Wow, smart TV, YouTube, all the way. And I came to realize, it's very funny, a kid as young as, because the youngest is like 9. Yeah. A kid as young as 9, and that's why nilikuwa nasema, don't overlook their ages, because they know what's wrong. They know. I heard them say, mami yako usiwatch. Imagine. Lakini saa ile hayuko, panya anatawala, si ndio? We can watch whatever. So you can tell if you know something is bad. If you know something is bad, try and refrain, especially when it's early, because it gets to a point you like that gentleman I told you about of undressing women kwa akili yake. It gets very bad. So how does one get started in the first place? In terms of this pornography thing. You see, peer pressure. You know, ignorance is laughed at, especially nowadays, and the young people can attest. It's laughed at if maybe you haven't done some things. It's laughed at. Inago, huyu jamaa kumbe ni hajawai. So there is some element of exploration that people get into this with. And I don't know, I'm not a professional, but there's a big disaster. So, and you know, this thing also affects relationships, by the way. And you know, the internet, by the way, the internet is playing a significant role in marriages. Arizona State University published a report that 1 in every, maybe in Kenya it's lower, juu hatujafika hapo in terms of access to technology. But in America, 1 in 4 marriages wouldn't have happened without the online thing. 1 in 4. 1 in every 4. And so it goes without saying that number will only go one way over time, which is up. Wenye hawana simu kwa hii crowd, kuna siku watakuwa nayo. Kuna siku watakuwa wanaongeleshwa na ladies and gentlemen through that phone. So, how does it affect us negatively as companions. You know, the problem with today, and I read here somewhere, 51% of teenage relationships are documented publicly. Uko na boyfriend as young as you are, umempost. 51%. 51%. And I can guarantee you won't get married to that person. So, what ends up happening? Wewe umedocument at 18, utaoa ama uolewe at tuite 30. Tuite tu. It's a theoretical figure, at 30. In that period, and people in school know, kuna relationship ya hata 2 weeks. Sindio? Yeah? Kuna relationship ya 2 weeks, especially the 15 and above people know. Aiko? Ama naguza, ama you are part of the failed relationship ya 2 weeks. Is it the reason why I'm responding? So there is that. By the time umefika whatever age, or your desired time of marriage, or pali Mungu atapanga, watu wanajua, si Rachel. I thought James had Rachel. I thought James had Natalie. I thought alikuwa na Mercy. How come naitwa invitation card, it's reading Rebecca? What happened? I thought alipost juzi wakiwa na yeye Mombasa. You see? So there is this excessive documentation, and as I mentioned earlier, we want to seek validation from the internet, kuonyesha, ulienda vacation Zanzibar, unaweza afford, uko na pesa, wengine hawana. Boyfriend yako alikupeleka pahali fulani, wewe una boyfriend kama huyo. So comparing situations, especially financial, imefanya social media reduce the quality of relationships that we have today. And they say here that, do you know, by the way, 90% of divorces, okay, they're not caused by social media, but 90% of divorces, because divorce, it was settled by a third party legally. 90% of divorces used electronic evidence. Electronic evidence. Ulitext msichana wa wenyewe, akachukua screenshot, ikakuanika. Or you did something your partner hapendi, akaitumia against you from here. So inamaanisha there are so many things we do in secrecy, zenye zinagunduliwa, they are now a deal breaker to other people. I'm sure there are so many things you do, your parents will have known. Inge change the dynamic of that relationship of yours more. So, social media has, and it's actually ironic, social media has made us less social. It has made us less social. Because just in relationships, 34% of relationships ziliisha juu, they felt the partner was distracted by too much usage of the phone. 34% is in relationships. These are not marriages. But especially on the comparison, it's something as human beings it's kind of inevitable. You'll compare, person X has this car, I don't even have one. Person Y does this, I don't. Yeah? There's a friend of mine, we went with to a place called the Nairobi Securities or Nairobi Stock Exchange. Nani wanajua among the adults, by show of hands? NSE? Nobody else? Okay. So, tulienda na yeye hapo. We did something small. He told me, actually I told him, there's a company called Crown Paints. Crown, because I realized, via pesa, the little we get, tunaharibu. So I said, okay, what can we do? This money is not enough to be capital in a business somewhere. The rate of the bank is not significant. Let's try kununua stocks. So tukaenda, we didn't know any broker, so that's why tukaenda. We didn't know any brokerage. So tukaenda hadi kwa Nairobi Stock Exchange. Tukasema we want to buy Crown shares. We bought each a few hundred shares, close to 1,000. So the guy, it was selling at 35 shillings a share. The guy immediately amenunua, tumeweka pesa hapo. He went to a platform called LinkedIn. You know LinkedIn? You know LinkedIn? Especially watu wakubwa. Amjui LinkedIn? Watoto I excuse because it's a professional, it's more about career. Amjui LinkedIn, James, you don't know? Unajua? So akaenda LinkedIn immediately. Kwa profile hapo akaongeza investor. Nikamwambia, my friend, what's wrong with you? Because why? He wants to sell that image. He's not yet there. But because he's known, and I don't blame him, he's known, nyinyi watu, or society at large, feeds off of perception. If you have, by showing investor, there's this perception people will have, ukona track record ya putting money in, allocating capital somewhere. So, there's something about seeming more accomplished. I feel we need to. Humility is, I usually like this wazee, and there's a phrase we usually tell each other as young people. Watu wako na pesa, wamekuwa na pesa, utajua. Watu wameanza kushika, utatusikia. Actually, young niko na rafiki mwenye sijui ni aje alipata gari. The first thing alienda kufanya hata kabla aangalie kama kuna any leakage issues or what. Alienda akaeka exhaust turbo charged. Ikuwe sauti ka Subaru. Ndio akipita mjue. You see? So we have that bit of comparison to the extent of using pictures from other people's accounts. Do you know kuna watu huiba picha? Ushaiona hiyo? Umepiga picha ya mahali, ame screenshot or I don't know how amepata, anaeka as if it's his or hers. Nikaa alikuwa hapo. Why? Just for validation. So validation is a big thing. Just be happy with who you are. If there are people who will give you some acclaim and praise, wacha ikuwe wazazi or people close to you. You don't have to prove anything. There's nothing we haven't seen. Another issue is trust. Trust is now a commodity. And there have never been this many experts in the past. Kila mtu sahi ni expert. Kila mtu ni expert. And it brings me to the point of being drawn into a cult. Do you know a cult? Do you know a cult? Who knows a cult? As a define. I'll give someone mic. Who knows a cult? As a define. What a cult is. Who knows? I'll pick randomly. Hata unichukie majaliwa utanipata tena unichape. Who knows what a cult is? Cult. Hakuna young adults hapa. A cult. Kama unajua si mbaya, there's nothing wrong. A cult. Nobody? Ebu kuja, come young man, come. This is a great guy. Come. Come tell us what a cult is in your opinion. You don't know? Unajua, come. Come, ni wewe, yeah, wewe. Yeah, you. Utashtuka natupia the right answer, yet amekalia. Come. Come. What is a cult in your opinion?
So, according to me, a cult is some things that maybe a group of people do that involves that involves the devil worship or something like that.
Or a group of people that are together doing things that involve devil worship. That's his definition. Any other? Is there any other? Okay, he's actually correct. He's actually correct. And why aren't you people confident? You know, if you're confident to express, it means you can teach other people algebra, you can get better with, let's be confident people. So, yeah, he's correct. A cult is a group of people. It doesn't have to be devil worship, but mostly it's devil worship, following blindly a certain group for a certain reason. And so, the internet has been used. You know, so many people. Who's your favorite artist? Artist wa muziki. Sisemi hiyo ni cult. Mimi nataka tu kujua jina. It can be whoever. I also have I like Chris Brown. Who do you listen to? Anaweza kuwa pia wa church. Si lazima kama yangu.
Specific person.
A specific person. Or do you have a genre? A type of music you like? Uko naye? Huh? A singing group, okay.
Called Acidos.
Pardon? Acidos. Hey, ni kama I'm too old, eh? Amesema Acidos. Who else? James, favorite artist wako ni nani? Genre? Just name a few. Name a few. Yes, musical artist. Drake, amesema Drake. Who else? Nitakuuliza next, juu umecheka. Hata ulicheka ya huyu. Nitauliza tu nisikie yako. It's not bad to have a favorite artist. Amesema Drake. Is there any other? Ama for now we work with that. We can work with that. Wewe ni nani wako? Your favorite artist? Your favorite artist? Niambie nitasema basi if you don't want to say out loud. Ama wewe? Mseme wawili. Wewe anza. It's a group. What's the name? Pardon? Oh, good. Amesema Praise and Harmony a cappella. Good, good. Aya wewe. Hii mmekata. Yes, who you? Just say the mic.
Soul's Grace Ministers.
Soul's Grace Ministers. Good. Who else? Who else? I'm looking for vijana hivi. This young man, who you? The yellow checked shirt. Favorite artist? Okay. It could be. So anyway, you know, I'm happy watu mmesema ni music tunaelewa. You see, there's something called backmasking. When I was a young child, there's a time, and I don't know if James you can remember, there's a time there was this thing we used to get scared of. Me personally, singezima taa in my bedroom. Kuna time hiyo hype ilikuwa real. Hii Illuminati hii. Kuna time it was crazy when we were your age. Ungelala na taa off, I swear. Juu ungesikia sijui Baphomet, sijui kichwa ya mbuzi, sijui nini. And then, hiyo time, the people who are teaching us are using the songs that are hitting, that are trending. Hiyo time kulikuwa na umbrella, ela, kulikuwa na so many songs. So wanakuambia, and those are the songs that ziko catchy with people at the time. Wanazitumia, guys, mkisikiza hizi ni shetani. Yeah? Because look, after I did my research, I won't go into all this. But there's something these people use, because unashanga, it's English, but outrightly ujaona any praise. There's something they use called backmasking. What they do is they mask the hidden message, yeah? Ukiplay your music backwards. If you play that song backwards, if you can get access to that, you'll actually hear there are some satanic lyrics. Now, music is used a lot. And you know, I can actually urge you people to invest. You know, the ministry of God has been really underinvested, in my opinion. Because if you look at the people who are bringing in this cultic agenda, they are very well resourced. Very well resourced. And by the way, it's because of money that some of you go. It's because of money. Kuna mtu anaenda kwa mganga. I once saw, true story, industrial area, kuna mahali niliona signpost, Dr. Shedi. He used my name, huyo mganga. Dr. Shedi, anatibu magonjwa, sijui nini, pesa nyingi utapata. So, how come this guy, and that's not even a cult. Cults are way deeper than that. Huyo ni businessman. Amejipaka white around one eye. Akajifunga leso ya Masai. Then you think he's a miracle worker. So there is something about the investment the devil has done. Because there is a verse in Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 2, where it says that I am in awe. Habakkuk is saying, I am in awe, God, of your deeds. I am in awe of all you have done for those who preceded us. But now I want us to see that favor, that mercy, those works in our time today. Sawa, you did it for Kina Moses, fine. You did it for Joseph and his brothers. You did it for whoever. Do it for us too. Now, human beings are kind of historical creatures. In the recent past, we have seen watu wa shetani. Now, watu wa shetani, okay, it's hard to tell nani ni wa shetani just by the look. But watu wa shetani ndio, they are doing well. They are doing better. So ukiangalia, it's easy to be told, wewe, hii yako hii ukienda na Habakkuk 3:2, hii Mungu ilisha. Or he's not as powerful. Or he's not even existent in the first place. So there's this reputational trust that has been developed through recency bias. Last year, uliona fulani, he did this, he did something good. Or he got richer. Because it's all about wealth, I've seen in this world. The devil owns the world. And if you don't believe that, you have to remember, at the time of temptation of Jesus, he told him, despite Jesus being part of creation, he told him, hii dunia ni yangu, bow down, I'll give it all to you. Yeah? So he owns majority of these assets. But what I want to encourage you today is, kids, have you ever seen a purple cow? Ushaiona ng'ombe purple? Ama blue? Eh? Mshai? You've never. Now, I want you to be a purple cow. You. Now, what that means is a purple cow is remarkable. If you're going to, where do you, ushago kwenu ni wapi? Kisii, Nyamira. Good. So, next time ukienda Nyamira, look out uko nje kwa barabara. You will see many cows. Why don't you stop your mom or dad akiendesha kuona hizo ng'ombe? Because they're ordinary, yeah? They are not remarkable. They are not worth making a remark about. But nyinyi mkiwa watu wa Mungu, in God's church, and you are upholding God's values, not just going to church. Going to church is not enough. But you are upholding what is required of you spiritually, and even by action to others. you will be a purple cow. Yeah, you'll be worth making a remark about. You'll be an admiration, a source of inspiration. People will see person X na waseme you want to be like him or her, kwa sababu Mungu wake ndio. So you won't, by doing that, by just improving yourself, you will make others stay in God's path and not venture into cultism, kwa sababu you with the true God are doing well. Sindio? You're doing well with God. So why do I have to go into other things that are sacrificial? Do you know these things? You can't just enter evil. Kitu ya free. They say, and this is the founder of Facebook alisema. I know the founder of Facebook, the critics were Facebook walisema, if something is free, see Facebook, Instagram ni free, sindio? You don't pay to use. If something is free, you are the product. If a product is free, you are the product. Ni wewe ndio wamekununua. So in cultism, that is mostly the phrase that is coined. Because wewe umeingia hivyo, sawa 20 million, hey, nataka kujengea mama yangu. After a few years, umejengea mama yako, the same people require your mom's blood. We want your mom. There are some sacrifices, there are tough choices you will make. So it's either you make the tough choice of persevering through hardship. Like mom asubuhi alituambia nini? She started from Atiga. Akaenda security and your gate or wherever she was assigned. Hivyo. And we were talking when we were having tea, nobody wants that anymore. We want instant gratification. We want instant results. Ulipata 280 out of 500 CBC. Umesoma 1 week to exam, you think you'll get 400. See, it's impossible, but that's not how the world was designed to work. Kuna progress. So the instant nature of our desires is what is making us lose it. And so you either decide which hardship is less hard. Is it working your way up genuinely? Ama kupata haraka, but you lose your people. Because at the end of the day, what is money without... I usually ask people when I feel have success or have succeeded. You know, how did you do it? And there's one who challenged me again. He will say, what is success to you? To you, it could be money. To me, it's family, it's peace, it's tunacheka, friends. Hey, tunaenda nyama choma kwa nani, hivyo. Yani, that is it to him. And so what's the point of having this money, you know, that is illegitimate? Mwishowe, you have nowhere to hide because now they'll be coming for you. So, as I've said, human psychology, if you understand human psychology and God's consistency, you'll be fashionable over time. And now, I want to now say, tumeongelea how bad social media is. Nimeona time ni mbaya. Ukiwa hapa, you can't tell. So, there's the good. For me, I can say, as I even said, kuna, you know, the source, it's a good source of information at a cost that is unimaginable. I get access to PDFs on... I'm more into the construction field. I get PDFs zenye university students wanaambiwa wanunue thousands of shillings for free. But I have a printer somewhere. Na print, na bind, kusha. So you see, we have access to information. And I even started by saying, these people, you'll find some part of their presentation walitoa online. Wali research, wali. So it's a good thing that way. You people, can you imagine, because naamini you're old enough to remember, COVID. Imagine COVID without simu, without internet, lockdown. Yeah? It helped us get through life, honestly. Kuna watu, they weren't brought back to their classes in terms of ulikuwa unaingia grade 3 or whatever, umerudishwa 2. Because of online classes. Without online classes, ungekuwa a year older but stuck at the same class. That's also an advantage. And another thing, especially for the young adults. I usually compare our times versus times wazazi wetu, wazazi wao, and even I'm a historical person in nature. There are two revolutions zenye I'll want to single out. One is the agrarian revolution. Mlisoma history from 1? Watu mmepita high school? History was compulsory. You remember agrarian revolution? You remember? Eh? Do you remember the agrarian revolution? Ama mtafanya KCSE kweli? Yeah, as he said, you have to, whatever you learn here, usisahau. Elder aliongelea asubuhi, usisahau as you progress. So, the agrarian revolution ilikuwa about farming. If that time, we had the same piece of land as daktari here, the same size. Shamba yangu inatoshana hii church, yake pia ni hivyo. If I was a better farmer, can I be significantly richer than him? Can I? The same piece of land, can I? Maybe, but maybe kulingana na how I've tailored my presentation, my answer is no. My answer is no because, the reward system wasn't as favorable as today. Today, a young man has a laptop, alitengeneza Facebook 2004 kwa hostel ya Harvard. So there's a reward system. Yenye saa hii, hiyo Facebook imekuwa what? A lot of money. Yenye upewe the same laptop, utaenda watch pornography. Imagine. Umeona, umepewa the same thing, but how you use it. That's what Daktari was saying. Applied knowledge is the real power. You have knowledge, okay, laptop, you can do this and that, but you're not applying it in the right way, or you're not even applying it at all. You lose out. So I don't know if this is the end. I think because of time, this should be the end. As I've said, everything is a click away. The good, the bad. Everything is a click away. There are many things. It's such, kusema ukweli, and Elder, I didn't want to tell you when you were coming, but I felt like I've underprepared because there is so much subject matter I've left out. Yeah? So, nyinyi watu, I want to urge you, if you've picked something, use it, and even inquire more. Look for help if you're in any sort of trouble in terms of using these gadgets. As I told you, kuna some settings zenye unaweza weka kama mimi na kwanga nimeweka sifai kupita 1 hour WhatsApp in a day. So nikiingia ni reply toka. You see? Na ikinifungia ni hivyo, tutaongea kesho. So I think making some tough choices, jinyime mapema before it gets too difficult and you become a nuisance to parents, you stop growing. Because I was telling my sisters, younger sisters, when walirudi holiday at December, they were watching all the time, watching simu, nini, tablet. I told them, if I were your classmate and I'm reading the whole holiday, nitakuua at the entry exam, opener. Uwe utainifikia with 2 months of. So you have to look at the bigger picture. Unaangalia saa hii, but there are people who are calculating years from now. They're looking at KCSE, I'm building a foundation. Umesahau agrarian revolution, history paper 1 itakupata. Lakini kuna mtu alijipanga as you are not doing that. So I'm not saying be over competitive, over transactional, but also look at life versus what about my peers who are the 1%. The problem with these things in the world is that majority are the ones doing the wrong thing. Majority of us, wakora. Majority of us are the ones, we are the ones disappointing our parents. Majority of us see number 1. Majority of us see number 1 ni moja tu. The rest mnafuata. Si ndio? So maybe it's and also love the truth. No matter how uncomfortable it will be, these parents, Elder, a funny thing, when I was preparing for this, my dad will ask me, what have you got? So I will say something hivi, then watoto, shedi usiseme sana, tutanyang'anywa. our phones will be taken away. Don't say too much. Yeah, so let's also be comfortable with the truth that, as I started by saying, acknowledge the problem. Acknowledge you're experiencing that problem. Try and quit. And kwa wale amna, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad about getting into a monster. Usisikie mbaya ati sasa wengine wako na. Actually, those people can't manage. Watu hawezi cut through a seminar like this whole day ajaangalia simu. Lakini where you can. So don't worry, don't compare, don't seek validation from the internet. Listen to your parent. By the way, your biggest fan is your parent. Don't be lied to. I usually see marafiki zangu ladies, when they post a picture of themselves, and I'm not saying it's bad to cheer up your friends, but marafiki kwa comments, oh, looking good, looking nini. And sometimes it's not true, but it's over-exaggerated. You see, your biggest, there's a time I once got a sight elder. Kuna jamaa, he told me, come, a Sudanese guy, come weka tiles kwa nyumba yangu, do the painting. So I'm getting excited, I'm telling people, hey, kuna job, there's a. So my dad, I think, knows me very well. He told me, my friend, don't think people are as happy for you as you will believe. Yeah, not that they want you to fail. Maybe some do. Maybe wanataka ufail. But people are not happy for you. Nimekuwa number 1. Don't think your biggest fan are the people who, are within. Ni wazazi, they're the ones who want to see you do well. Wachana marafiki, hii ni uongo. We all left school. You see, the people who nilikuwa najaribu kufurahisha by having a phone ya ukora, mpaka wa leo na ukweli wa Mungu, we don't talk with any. So don't look, that's what I was saying. Think long term. Don't look at today. And this is what is fashionable now. And that's what I was saying about now the purple cow. You become fashionable over time. Because all of those people wither, get miserable, or don't do as well because they took shortcuts. Or they took decisions thinking, kuna kwanga na hizi seasonal businesses, watu wanaingia kwa nini, hata kwetu there are people who drill boreholes and then put the steel tower tanks. So in our area, boreholes dried up. So you drilled a borehole because elder is doing well. Hey, pesa, unaonanga hapo vile watu wanaenda. You see? So don't look at others as far as decision making is concerned. You make your own choices, having just you in mind. Does it glorify God, as the previous speaker said? There's so much we can share, but for now, I think I'll just say everything is a click away. Choose where you're clicking. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we need a little break again. Been sitting. Can we stretch a bit? A minute or two? Those who want to go to the washrooms, do that very quickly. We get back in not more than 3 minutes. Ndio tuendelee na program. Thank you so much for the inputs you've given. I believe there's something we've learned. Hey, na baadaye tutawauliza maswali hata nyinyi, si ndio? Ukituuliza yenu tutawauliza pia. Msihepe. We are here to learn from one another. So let's enjoy the break. 2 to 3 minutes max. Kama ni kuruka nje kidogo, ruka, kimbia washroom, kimbia, rudi, kunywa maji, tuendelee. Daktari atungojea hapa with another message. Okay.